Hey, it's Bucky again. I just wanted to shoot a quick video to talk to you about mold today. Mold is a terrible, terrible problem in homes. I've experienced it firsthand in one of my rental properties, and I want to tell you a little bit about what to watch out for, and when we buy houses now in Tulsa, how we look for that to ensure there's a plan to take care of that. Okay, black mold that you see growing up the walls, or oftentimes it's under your house, or sometimes it's up in your attic, can cause severe health issues. The problem about it is the black mold gets airborne, and the people that's living in the property will congest that or inhale that into their lungs, and it can cause runny noses, watery eyes, coughing, and there's some even worse side effects. So as you're renting a house out, if you're renting a house out, or if you're trying to sell a home and there's mold, you're going to have to disclose that, or liability can fall back on you. So I recommend, if you want to know how to solve those problems, I would reach out to mold specialists. They are certified in mediating the problem. The problem with mold is it may look on the surface in one room, say it's climbing up the wall or the sheetrock, or you're not aware of where the source of the problem is. So when you go to get rid of mold, you actually have to find the root source of it, meaning that it may be behind the wall, it may be below the wall, it may be in the floor. Oftentimes it's found in bathrooms where there's moisture and not a lot of ventilation in the air. Sometimes it starts creating it from a roof, where there's a leak in a property. Inside of a roof there, mold can start growing there. So anywhere that moisture sets, mold will happen. And surprisingly, most of the homes that we buy now in Tulsa will actually have mold in them. So it's our job, when we get these houses ready to resell, if we're fixing them up or if we're keeping them as a rental property, we have to get rid of that mold. We have team members that we use that are specialists in getting rid of mold. You know, with the floods and stuff recently in Tulsa, there's going to be a lot of that pop up in homes that never had before, because some of the homes received water damage, and even just water sitting in the house for a week or so can spawn that mold growth. So if you have a property that you own, or if you have a property that you rent out, I would be sure to do at least an annual inspection to make sure there's no mold growth. Walk around your house, look for those areas that have mold. Because the sad part about it, it happens to everyone. I had a rental property that I had rented out, and I was a long ways away. I was 12 hours away on this property by driving, and it's a two-hour flight. Maybe it was a little bit further on driving, but anyway, I'd never made it back to the property very often. And it had been a couple years, and what had happened, the water runoff was settling underneath the house, which was creating a moist environment there, and it was building up those mold spores underneath the house. So what happened? The mold started growing on the bottom of the floor joist, and it started rotting out the floor joist. The reason why I found the mold is my tenant said the floor was sagging. So the problem with the property is it had a very low foundation wall, meaning that this crawl space you couldn't crawl underneath it, right? So what had happened, mold had started growing, and the water wasn't draining out from underneath the house. And it just sat there and grew and grew and grew. And the scary part about it is the renters were breathing that in. And unfortunately, we worked it out with them, got them out of the house, which was fine. And what I had to do was go in and tear out the complete floor and mediate all that mold that was growing. And then the second thing I had to do is I had to put in French drains to get the water away from the property in order for that not to come back. So this is quite a process, tearing out every single floor joist across 800 square foot of a home, replacing those floor joists, leveling them back out, and basically rebuilding the floor across 2 different rooms in that property. Talk about a lot of expenses. So that's the importance of identifying sources where water sets or moisture starts to accumulate and can evaporate. Okay, and always diligent about keeping the vents open underneath the house during the summer months to let air blow through and cool that out. But being a rental property and out of state, I didn't make it back to that property very often to be able to identify the issue before it became a real issue. Luckily, they didn't have any effects from the mold that was happening in the property, so there was no risk with me there. But that's something that you need to be aware of. You know, oftentimes, people that have a lot of rental properties, they'll actually hand out a mold disclosure, which basically says, hey, there could be mold, look for this, let us know. So there's ways to, be proactive, but the best proactive measure is to make sure you don't have any moisture accumulating in your house anywhere, because that will spur mold and it will come on fast and it can cause massive damage, not only to the people that's living in the property, but your property itself. So when we buy houses, we look for those sources of mold, which will in turn help us get a better estimate of how much tear out, how much remodel. I mean, this property, I had to clear out all the floor joists. They were covered in mold. There was no way to clean that off. It had started going up to some of the wall, and I had to clear out and replace all the baseboard and obviously the flooring. I put new flooring down, new subfloor, new flooring, new trim, all because of just a simple moisture problem that accumulated into a terrible mold problem, which caused the floor joists to rot out, the floor to fall in, the renters to move out. So I was out a good month and a half of rebuilding that property to getting it back up to shape and clear out all the mold and dry everything out and fix the issue where the water was coming in. So just keep in mind, when we buy houses in now Tulsa, we look for mold. Okay, we look for sources of water. We look for, dry rot or, where moisture can be coming into the house. Those are sources where mold will start to grow, especially in bathrooms. Oftentimes we can't crawl underneath the house, but there is mold oftentimes growing underneath the house that you cannot see. When we see mold, we work with a team of mold experts that will get rid of the mold for us so we can get rid of it properly. That way, when we fix and rehab this house or we rent it out, they will actually have a home that's safe and the liability on us is mitigated, and we've done our job and got rid of the mold, which in turn would help us by eliminating the source where the water was coming in, so it keeps us from having huge repairs, a year in or 2 years out. I hope you like this video about mold. I hope you take some time today. Just walk through your house, look in your bathroom, open up some cabinets, open up some drawers, look underneath. If you have the ability to crawl under your house, I would recommend crawling around by the bathroom and just identify if there's any water coming in the house anywhere, or any soft floors, any soft walls, just to make sure there's no mold that's starting to grow. You can do some self-mold tests, but if you're in doubt and you're living in that home, I would recommend calling one of our mold specialists, or you can call us. We can refer you to them, and you can actually get a little discount. So we want to help you no matter what your situation is. Please be sure to check us out on our website. We buy houses now, Tulsa, so if you have a property that you want to sell fast, or if you have a property full of mold and you don't want to deal with it, we can help. Give us a call. Thank you.